Alright, we got WSP Waukesha County Sheriff's over here, Deputy Kim Unger, Detective Brad Bussler, and Canine Handler Deputy Thompson. Deputy Thompson,
Hey.
a little tired. He was down in Kenosha last night, and that's his partner Tito. Take it away.
I'm doing it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. And like I said, I'm Kurt Thompson. I've been with the Sheriff's Department almost 8 years. Been a handler for 5. Prior to taking K9 Tito starting this year, I had K9 Justice for about 5 years. He retired in May. So chose Tito, very high drive German Shepherd. We have not had a German Shepherd for almost 10 years. He's from the Czech Republic. Hey, I don't know what you're looking at. So he's very young. He just turned 2 years old. He's from the Czech Republic, so all his commands are in Czech. It's about 90 pounds. And all 4 canine teams are dual-purpose narcotic canines. We have 3 Belgian Malinois, and then of course Tito, German Shepherd, also known as a Czech Shepherd apparently nowadays. So dual-purpose narcotic canines, meaning they are trained in patrol functions as well as narcotic detection. So the odors that they are trained to detect are marijuana, methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, crack cocaine, and MDMA, and their derivatives. So we do vehicle sniffs. We'll assist our drug unit in doing house sweeps, storage unit sweeps, anything where narcotics can be hidden. They'll be able to detect them. An interesting fact about dogs, that a lot of people think that they can trick. Like you probably You've probably heard of people hiding drugs in like coffee cans, trying to mask the odor from canines. That's enough. Dogs' noses actually work a lot differently than human noses, in the fact that let's say we go into a pizza store, we smell just pizza. If we take a dog into a pizza shop, they're going to smell every single thing that is in that store at the same time. So they're going to smell sausage, pepperoni, cheese, the crust, the box. So if you're putting your drugs in a coffee can, well, they're smelling the can, they're smelling the coffee, they're smelling the plastic bag, and they're smelling the weed all at the same time. So it doesn't work. The patrol functions they are trained and certified in doing are area searches, tracking, building searches, handler protection, evidence recovery, and apprehensions. So all 4 dogs are trained to protect their handlers. The squads are outfitted with a hydraulic door on the passenger side, and we keep a button on our belt. So if we all of a sudden came into an encounter where we needed our partner to come out, we just hit the button, door pops open, and they come and help us. Same thing goes instead if all of a sudden we're in an altercation and we have our partner with us, they're automatically going to be trained to protect the handler. Building searches, obviously we use them for anything ranging from, we have just a simple open door overnight, and it's a big facility. We don't know if anybody's in there that shouldn't be, so we'll walk the dog through, usually on just a regular leash like this, or we'll have a burglary in progress or something like that, to that effect, where we have a forced entry. We know somebody is potentially in that building where that's not supposed to be in there, and we will send the dog in there to attempt to locate them. So they can locate individuals behind doors. They're trained, so for example, if somebody was behind that closed exit door, he would sniff the bottom door seams, find out which door that person was directly behind, and then start barking at it. So if they're in an area where they can't get to, they'll start barking. If they're in an area where they can get to, obviously they're going to apprehend that individual and hold them or drag them to us until we take them off the bite. Area searches and tracking are pretty much hand in hand. Tracking is if we have an individual that fled an area on foot, we know their last known location. We are going to deploy our dog to attempt to have them smell essentially human odor and ground disturbance in the ground. So they'll actually follow their exact track to where they're located. Area searching is kind of, like I said, hand in hand. It's enough. Where we're going to use the wind to our advantage and basically work like a football field, a grid pattern, and then hopefully have them pick up the individual upwind. So my longest track was 6 miles with Justice, so they'll work a very, very long time trying to find an individual. Evidence recovery, basically if we have a high crime, so homicides, fatal vehicle crashes, where we have some sort of evidence that may be able to be found. Anything that we have or have had, we've touched has human odor on it. So if I were to take my cell phone, throw it into the woods, it has human odor on it, he's trained to go find it, lay down and just put his nose on it. Other than that, it's pretty much all for patrol functions. All 4 canine handlers are assigned to our tactical enforcement unit, so we do have 4 canines assigned to essentially our SWAT team. 2 are basically primary, and then 2 are utilized if one of the other 2 isn't available. So all 4 handlers are training with the SWAT team as well as canine training. Yes, I know. In terms of what we do as handlers for our shift, we work 7 hours. They give us the benefit of 1 hour and 15 minutes for at-home care for every single day. We handle regular calls like every other deputy, in addition to canine calls. For example, Tito went into service June 13th, and since then has almost 50 deployments already. So usually we're between 150 and 200 deployments per dog per year, and that's on top of our regular calls for service. We've helped the FBI, HIDA, Postal Inspector Service, pretty much every single agency in Waukesha County. Yeah, just calm down, buddy. This is his very first public appearance, so bear with me. So our canine unit was founded in 1990. Its very first handler was Sheriff Eric Severson, who's our current sheriff. Started with 1 dog, Canine Bach. Since then we've had 4. We had 5 at one point in 1994, and then that only lasted I think about 6 months. So we've been 4 dogs since. Each dog is right around $15,000 to purchase and train for 5 weeks. And then there is a lot of ongoing medical care, food expenses, training expenses, and equipment. So our canine unit is almost primarily funded through donations and contributions. So a lot of people in Waukesha County basically fund our canine unit. So we have hundreds of thousands of dollars having been donated to us through generous citizens and businesses to help keep the canine unit going. So, you guys have any questions or anything like that? Yep.
Does he alert differently to different situations? Like, does he bark once and then sit for something else?
So for narcotics, they are trained to be a passive alert, which means if something's right around head level, they're just, as soon as they find source, which is the closest that they can get to that smell, they're just gonna sit down and stare at it. If it's high up, he'll probably jump up and basically just lean his elbows against whatever he's alerting to. If it's down on the ground, he'll lay down and just stare at it. If it's anything related to human odor, he's going to be barking because he thinks he's going to be getting a bite, unless it's evidence recovery. If there's something out, I just, like I said, threw my phone out into the grass, and he's already putting his nose literally on the object, he knows that's what it is, he'll just revert back to like a narcotic passive alert and just stare at it.
Yep. It's the lab test, it's like
Yep, Justice is at home, chilling in retirement. So he finally just calmed down starting last week. And he's actually laying down and not running all over the house searching for drugs. He still hasn't found any in like 3 months. So he finally gave up on searching my house for drugs. So that was nice. He's 9.5. So got a very, very long career. A lot of stuff going on with him. He had over, I think, 1,200 deployments. So he's enjoying what he's got left. Anything else? Yep. Yep, everything's take home. So we're on call basically 24/7, 365 unless we're on vacation or whatever. But we can get paged out, literally get done with a 12-hour shift, get home, take a uniform off, and then all of a sudden you get a page. So we have to be ready to go no matter what. Yep.
Is there limitations that Tito has, just to be like, I don't want to say like a normal dog, but like, can the interaction with other dogs, or is Tito limited to certain interactions, or daily life of?
Just like any other dog, I mean, they have all very different personalities, even between all 4 of ours. They are completely all different. So Tito is not dog aggressive. We do have a couple aggressive dogs. It's something the handlers all have to be aware about of what their dog can and can't do. Tito's very social. He's got what I call a very good switch. So I could literally have somebody put a bite jacket on, have him go play tug of war essentially with you in a bite jacket, and then have you take it off and you can come up and get pet by him. And he'd lick you in the face. That's the same the way Justice was. And then there's other dogs that they don't so much care for the human interaction. They want to work constantly. Whereas, yeah, so I mean, anytime they're trained to do some of the things they're doing, you always have to be very careful. Because he's trained to protect me based on what somebody else may do to me. I mean, if you were to tap me on the shoulder and all of a sudden I lose my balance, he may interpret that as an act of aggression. So it's something we have to be aware about. That's something they're trained. Just to be on the safer side, as with anything, is if the dog is trained to bite, well, you gotta be careful. So, I know. Devin?
Yeah, how do you, so when there's an opening for like a canine deputy at a department or a sheriff's department, how do you guys, like, what's the actual process? Do you guys have to panel interview, you test for it to go from deputy to canine deputy?
So once there is an opening, which with 4 dogs, it's usually they average 8-9 years in service. It's a pretty seldom occurrence. It's basically applying for like a brand new job. So you put in basically, it's called a matter of showing that you're interested in the canine spot. The testing process is kind of one day. So you're gonna start with a fitness test that's kind of evolved around or revolving around canine operations. So simulating carrying a dog up ladders to do an attic insertion. Basically holding 70 pounds up here. It proves that you can actually pick your dog up. He's not 70 pounds, not anymore. Running, what's that?
Is he heavier now?
Yeah, he's probably 90. So a lot of running, and then we do a shoot test to show, it's to simulate basically that you can still qualify with having potentially a dog that's trying to rip you around on one arm. So you have to decide how you're going to be able to do that. You have written test. A ton of it is case law. There's a lot of case law surrounding canine deployments. There's a lot of that, as well as policies, use of force stuff, an oral interview in front of 3 separate canine coordinators who did 3 different departments. There's a home visit, so they're going to come and talk to your spouse, your kids, whatever you got, to make sure, one, you actually have the requirements at your house that you can house a canine, and two, that everybody is actually okay with the fact that you have essentially a law enforcement tool at your house, and you're gonna have a squad parked in your driveway. So, mine also included 2 separate interviews with the sheriff, so it ended up taking almost 3 months before I was selected. Anything else? Yep. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Are you like allowed to do any personal training with them at home?
Yeah, I prefer not to do so much training at house unless it's strictly obedience. So, as with any dog, I mean, they're still dogs, so they gotta be allowed to be a dog at some point. So, we'll play fetch at home, and I'll make it so we're actually training obedience, but he's out having fun. So, we don't do anything at home, so he knows that's his place where he can relax and just calm down and just be a dog. That's what I prefer to do. Yep.
Do you guys get like paid more for handling them?
Sorry?
Do you guys get like paid more for like handling?
No.
them?
Nope.
Really?
I mean, unless you're counting all like the overtime that you're getting called in and everything else, but it's a lot of work. You do put in a lot of volunteer hours, so you do it because you enjoy doing it, not for money. I'll tell you that. Any other questions? You did pretty
One
good.
more, Kurt.
Yep.
When did you get, like how old was you?
I selected Tito in March, and then went to school with him starting May 11th. Justin hired May 9th. We did 5 weeks of training to certify, and then he went into service June 13th. So he was about like a year and a half when I selected him. Yep.
Do you have to be like a certain age before you can like handle them?
The requirements out of the department is that you have a minimum of 3 years law enforcement experience. It's not a written requirement that you're on TU, but like I said, all 4 are assigned on the tactical enforcement unit, and it's a good practice because when we're getting deployed into a patrol scenario, it's not for something that's light. It's usually a higher risk environment, so we get the extra training on TU to deal with better tactics and everything else that goes along with that.
How old does like the dog have to be to over that, or like for you to handle?
I mean, the one that I was gonna choose second was 13 months old. He was a Belgian Malinois, and I preferred not to have to go and get bit for nothing for like the next 10 years, because he was a biter. So, and then Tito was just that far ahead of him. So they're getting younger and younger, and it's a money thing overseas, pretty much. So you can get them from 13 months to 2 years old, but usually you want to hang around a year and a half to 2 years. That's it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Thompson. I take it you're probably gonna go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, and drink some fluids.
All right, so now you get all the boring stuff left over between us.
We're not boring. We just don't have a canine.
So I'm Detective Bustler. I've been with the Sheriff's Department. It'll be 17 years in October. Just a little bit about myself. I started on patrol. After patrol, I went to the Metro Drug Unit for a short time before I promoted to detective. So I've been a detective for about the last 6 or 7 years. I'm on the SWAT team. I've been on the SWAT team for 12 years. I was our sniper coordinator and our lead sniper on the team for a number of years. Just last January, I transitioned out of that role, and I'm now the scout for our entry team. So I do a lot of the search warrant plans, come up with the plans for our operations, and lead the guys through those. So aside from that, my normal duties as a detective, I did general crimes for a number of years. I did financials for a little bit. And the last 2 years, I've been doing background investigations. So for me, background investigations was a Monday through Friday gig. And I actually got to talk to people that were looking to try to get jobs. So they were a little bit more pleasant to deal with most of the time than the criminals. So that's kind of my story. I've been doing that recently. So I'll let Kim introduce herself and give you a little spiel about herself as well.
All right, I'm Deputy Kim Unger. I started my career a long time ago. I went through recruit school in 1992 when it was 400 hours. I believe it's at 720 hours. I put myself through the academy because back then you couldn't get a job for the most part unless you put yourself through. Many departments weren't putting people through. I started my career with then it was the Town of Pewaukee Police Department. Through the years, they changed, became a city of Pewaukee, and they disbanded in 2010. So I worked with them for 16 and a half years. The Sheriff's Department took over the contract with the city of Pewaukee. We all basically lost our jobs. We had to reapply, and I got hired in 2010 starting then. Had to go through field training again. In fact, my field training officer with the Sheriff's Department, I trained when he got hired at the city of Pewaukee back in the day, so it was actually kind of cool. I've been there since. I'm pretty much a patrolman. I am not the hut guy like my partner Brad is. I do a few other things. I've worked patrol, and I'm currently assigned to our court services division. If we have a chance, I can tell you the experience of everyone here about the Slenderman story, trial, stuff. If you heard about it, I actually worked a lot of court hearings with them, and I was assigned to the jury for the week of the one trial that I can talk to you guys a little bit about hanging out with a sequestered jury for a week. I currently, I'm an Explorer advisor, of which a couple of my Explorers are in your class. I don't know if you guys know it. Jack and Jesse. I'll tell you a little bit more about that a little later too. How many of you guys are under 21 in the class? All right, you qualify. If you're under 21, you could join our Explorer unit. So keep that in mind. I'm also a DARE officer. I've been a DARE officer for the last 2 years. COVID has kind of put an awful crutch in the program. We're not exactly sure what's going to happen this coming school year and a couple schools have said, hey, we're going to take a break for the first semester and see how this goes, if they're going to have us in. But a lot of the schools aren't letting visitors and outsiders into the school. So we might be taking a sabbatical for DARE, which is teaching 5th graders. And it's not just about drugs, it's about bullying, stress, how to get through different things in life. And also having them have the opportunity to see us as a law enforcement officer, a person that they can trust, who they can come to, despite what you guys hear in the news and whatnot these days. In my career, I've also been a forensic interviewer. I used to, for quite a few years, interview children that were involved in sexual assault and child abuse cases. Those are basically videotaped interviews where the kids don't have to repeat their story. It goes on video. That video can go to Detective Bustler, it can go to the DA's office, it can go to the defense attorneys and whatnot, so the kids don't have to constantly retell their story, is what forensic interviews are about. Court services, like I said, I started second shift for 4 years with the Sheriff's Department, went to another 5 years in court services. I bumped out last year back to patrol, and I'm back into court services Monday through Friday. I'm old, so I like Monday through Friday, day shift, 8 to 4 works for me. So, and I think that's a little bit about me.
All right, we'll kind of power through this and see if we got any other talking points to kind of go into. So roughly our department's got about 176 sworn now. Thank you. We have patrol, court services, detective bureau, and special operations. That's kind of our makeup, right? So we're the largest law enforcement agency in Waukesha County. So we kind of got all different branches off that we are responsible for. So our patrol division is divided up into 4 shifts: court services, first shift patrol, second shift patrol, third shift patrol. Our detective bureau just has 2 shifts, a day shift and a second shift. We have a captain assigned to each shift as of right now. Just recently we went to 12-hour shifts for our administration. So that's going to change a little bit. You're going to have like 1 captain assigned to each division, and you're going to have 4 lieutenants assigned to each division. So with that new 12-hour deal, they work like 3 days on, 4 days off, 3 days on, 3 days off. Our patrolmen work a 5-2-4-2. So they're on 5 days, off 2 days, on 4 days, off 2 days. And that just rotates throughout the entire year. So you'll know what your days are off for the entire year. Somebody has something? If you want to get other days off, we have benefit time that you can schedule some of that. If you work overtime, you have the opportunity to work it in what we call comp time. So you can like bank your hours, so you can take additional days off. You can also find another deputy that's willing to work your shift and do a trade. So if you need the day off, chances are there's a pretty good opportunity that you're going to be able to find a way to get off somehow. Top paid detectives, $36.24. I feel like maybe that's a little higher now, but I could be wrong. Top paid deputies are $34.62. So. You want to go through that a little bit, Kim?
I can. Patrol, they're responsible for responding to calls and for service and conducting traffic and other law enforcement throughout the county. Not only do we go on calls, but there's so much more to what we do. The interactions that we have with the individuals in our municipalities. I've gone to do talks to Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. We've done story time at the library or at different schools. Different badges that people need to earn, service projects that people need. We also do service projects, and I don't know if we have a slide on this, but our department, we do Shop with a Sheriff. Have you guys heard of that? Or Shop with a Cop? We do that. My explorers have joined me on that venture. Is that not like a pretty cool adventure? It really is. It's basically us as officers, and our explorers have the opportunity where we take underprivileged kids that we learn about through our Department of Health and Human Services, and we take them shopping. I think we get $100 or whatever that they get to go spend on whoever they want to shop for. Some of them have a lot of people to shop for, some have very little, and some choose to shop just for themselves, and that's okay. That's great, and it's rewarding. When we're out on patrol, we work with the other districts. Waukesha County, gosh, I think is what, 570 square miles? Think about it, 570 square miles, Waukesha County. That's what we as deputies can cover. I personally, I'm a north girl. You take the interstate and you ship me north and I'm golden. You ship me south, that's a weakness for me, I can tell you that right now. But every deputy, and probably Detective Bussler will tell you, he probably has his, preferred spots in the county. And it's kind of nice to work in the same area because you get to know your people, your perps, your good people, your informants and whatnot, and they get to know you. So it's when you bounce around all the time, it's really tough to follow up after an incident or stay connected with people when you're all over the place. But usually we as in patrol get the opportunity to pick a district and you're kind of there for the whole year, unless you're in general relief. That means you go where someone's off on vacation, off to training, off having babies or whatever. So, oh goodness, patrol pros, lots of action. There can be. Don't get me wrong, there can be days that there isn't a call, which is okay. If you guys watch all the police shows out there and stuff, it is not that. I can tell you that. There's no day that's the same. Back in the day, when I first started, you troll around in your patrol car, do, and then dispatch would call your number. Now, we have these really cool computers that the call kind of is there before our dispatchers actually get it to us. So you can kind of start being en route, you can let them know, kind of ease the job of dispatchers a little bit, and start going. It's amazing how things have changed through my career. I'm a firm believer. I'm all right with writing a few traffic stops, letting people know I'm there, slowing them down and stuff. But the bigger thing is being in the subdivisions, being in the industrial parts, letting people know that you're out there, you know? Presence is what? Anyone? What?
Presence is key.
Is a deterrence. Wouldn't you think? Holy shit, there's cops here. You know, we're not doing this tonight. You know, huge. We do have the ability to work overtime, and right now I think there's a lot of it. I'm not a big overtime person. I'm old, so I like my time off. So
Yeah,
cons, what?
there will be a time when you get ordered, right? And that kind of goes by seniority. So obviously, the little guy on a totem pole or a little girl on a totem pole gets ordered first. But say you just got ordered the day before, and then it goes to the next guy and the next girl. So you can only get ordered like 3 times a month or 4 times a month is the mandatory, and then it works through everybody else. But it is something that happens.
On occasion, it's come back around, unfortunately. So, but you kind of have a heads up a little bit. They've gotten better at that. So.
Look at that. I even get the same shirt on. Yeah, so our detective bureau is responsible for all the investigations. So basically our patrol guys and girls, they'll take the initial report, and then if it needs any sort of follow-up, it's coming back to us. So our bureau bosses will hand out the investigations and assign them accordingly. So like I said before, we kind of got general investigations, which would be, you know, your property crimes, thefts, kind of a jack of all trades. But we do have a lot of people that specialize in things. The sensitive crimes, the financials. I mean, if we get a homicide or attempted homicide or something big, then it's going to be all hands on deck. So everybody will pretty much drop what they're doing, and they'll all help in one way, shape, or form. Whether it's writing warrants, searching houses, interviewing people, downloading phones. We have a computer forensics lab. In our sheriff's department, we got 2 people assigned to that. We got numerous specialties throughout southeastern Wisconsin. So we've got our Metro Drug Unit, which has 4 of our guys assigned to it permanently, and then we supplement that with surrounding communities. So right now I think we have Brookfield, Eagle, Heartland, Elm Grove maybe, Muskego. So all those departments offer up one of their people on like a part-time basis. So they work their patrol job at the village of Eagle, and then 1 day a week or 2 days a week, or whatever they have figured out, they'll come and work with our Metro guys, and they'll run drug cases with them. So we've got 2 guys assigned to HIDA on the heroin task force. That's all they do all day, every day is go out and work in Milwaukee. We got 1 guy assigned to the DEA. He's out of Milwaukee as well. We got another guy assigned to the JTTF, which is the Joint Terrorism Task Force out of Milwaukee. And then we got another guy assigned to the U.S. Marshals. And his job is to ride around all day and try to find and track down fugitives. So if you look at a sheriff's department compared to a police department, the opportunities are exponentially bigger with the sheriff's department. Mostly just because you've got more people, you've got larger area, and it's not like a small PD where you maybe have 5, 6, 10 guys. You know, those 10 guys are kind of expected to do everything and be a jack of all trades. Where at the sheriff's department, you can kind of direct which way you want to go and kind of be more specialized and do some different stuff. We pretty much talked about that. The worst thing about being a detective is like when you go home at the end of the night, all your stuff is still sitting on your desk. So when I was working patrol, you wrote your tickets, you got your reports called in. By the end of your shift, you walked out that door and your plate was clean. You didn't have anything else to deal with. It started all over again the next day, but pretty much everything was left at work. In the detective bureau, you're running cases. You may have as low as 10 cases. I think the most cases I was running at one time was like 33 cases. So if you're running 33 cases, there's always something to be doing. There's always something waiting for you. So that's the one con I would have to say about the detective bureau, is that the stuff sticks with you until it's resolved. You don't get to just call in your report and go home. But as far as some pros, I can take off whenever I want. There's no shift minimums. If I come into work at 5 in the morning because I'm doing some surveillance or I'm doing some other stuff, maybe I leave at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If I need the next day off because I got an interview coming in on an off shift or maybe after my shift, I can be flexible and I can adjust my schedule accordingly. So I got a lot more leeway of what I am able to do and what I can do. That's a lot different than, you know, the shift work on patrol.
And with patrol, right now, we're gaining people, we're losing people, we got people in training, we got people retiring. So there's a lot of movement. So we got people, we got a couple guys up that are on paternity leave right now, just had some kids. In court services, there is a little more flexibility. If your judge is down, chances are you can get a day off. So a lot of the judges have their afternoon that they take for golfing, so you can kind of plan accordingly that way. Some of them, you know, when they're Fridays, usually they're pretty good at letting our bosses know what they're going to be around for the next week or month or what their vacation schedule is, so our bosses can plan. So we have a little more flexibility than patrol. So.
Special operations, we kind of already touched on a little bit. We got the K-9, obviously we got SWAT. Pretty new to our department is CDU, the Civil Disturbance Unit. Obviously with the way things are going in the world right now, I think they started their unit about 2 years ago, and they're full steam ahead, getting used a bunch and out there doing stuff. We've also got the search and recovery team for the dive team. I really have no interest in doing that or a lot of information about it. All I know is I see those guys out on the ice, cutting a hole in there and then jumping around and swimming around. So, but if that's something you're into and you want to strap on the scuba gear and go search for dead bodies, we got a spot.
They look for property also, not just dead people.
Tactical enforcement unit. We've got 48 guys on the team right now, and we're split into 2 teams. So kind of like how I told you before, I run the red team as the scout. Before that, I was a sniper coordinator and a sniper team leader. So we got 4 or 5 long rifles right now. They're all, you know, carrying LRP 308 custom rifles made out of Hugo, Minnesota by JP Enterprises. And they take a lot of time and dedication in their craft, right? So when something bad's going down and somebody's expected to stop that situation from happening, one of the first guys they're going to look to is the guy sitting on the other end of the scope. It takes a person who's willing to put the time and effort into perfecting the craft. and being a good marksman. So, you know, when the time comes that they're able to help remedy the situation. Like Kurt was saying, we got our canines on there as well. We got gas guys. We've got negotiators in the background. We've got medical guys in the background, you know, that are all helping grease the wheels and making that thing function as one. Our tactical team gets used a lot when the stuff goes down in Milwaukee. You know, they're not going to be calling the city PD, you know, to come send 4 guys. They're going to call the sheriff's department because we've got 176 guys to pick from. And we've got the armor and we've got the other resources that we can send down there and help them with. Last night we had a bunch of guys down in Kenosha. We're probably going back there again tonight. So those are the other things that we have to deal with as well outside of our county and help out. We sent guys out to North Dakota when they were doing that pipeline stuff and had protesters out there. If another law enforcement agency asks for it, our sheriff is going to do everything possible to give them whatever they need to help them out. And if that means sending us to North Dakota or Tennessee or Florida or whatever it is, he's gonna do everything he can to help those other agencies out. Search and rescue, we talked about that with the dive guys. Anything else you want to add on dive?
No.
I'll just touch it real quick. The difference between the sheriff's department dive team and a fire department dive team. The fire department dive team is for rescue, and the sheriff's department is called out for recovery. So if there's a water rescue on Pewaukee Lake or Negawicka Lake, and they can't find the person, and after searching, they can't search any longer, they're presumed dead, sheriff's department dive team comes out for recovery purposes after that, and also evidence recovery and stuff like that.
Yep, like, nobody will know this case, but we had the Lurvy case 20 years ago maybe.
Oh, better than that. What was longer than that?
The search and recovery team was looking for guns in the bottom of a pond, and they're feeling around in the muck, trying to find a weapon. We had the Wagner homicide in Oconomowoc, where our search and recovery team's out in a river, you know, searching for guns that might have been dumped off a bridge. So that's kind of the stuff that they do, and they're really good at it. You know, they've got a lot of equipment to help them do their job. You know, sonar has come along so far these days. I mean, even if you look at it like a hunting and fishing application, you can go out on the ice, look at this little sonar, and see fish down below you. So they use a lot of the same type of technology to find evidence, bodies, whatnot. CDU, Civil Disturbance Unit. They've been down at Kenosha the last 2 nights. They were down at Milwaukee with us as well. Pretty new to our department, but 97 people total, and that includes like the city of Waukesha, New Berlin, a lot of our southeastern agencies here, and I know I'm probably forgetting some, but like each department's got a couple guys on it, and then they all come together and work as one. You want to do that one, Kim?
Yeah, some other opportunities, and not to say that some of the smaller departments won't have a motorcycle unit. They might have 1 bike. I think currently our department has 4. Recreation patrol, we got ATVs, we got snowmobiles, we got boat patrol. The Metro drug unit we've talked about. School resource officers, we currently have, I think 4. We got Sussex Hamilton, Arrowhead, got them right, 3, right? 3 right now.
Sounds good.
DARE, Honor Guard, they go for ceremonies, they also go for funerals. So they march in parades, They've kind of been scaled back lately with all the corona stuff. A lot of things have been scaled back lately. Our explorers, not every department has an explorer unit. Not as big and as involved as ours is, I'd like to think. It's one thing to have an explorer unit and they get used for putting them out on a traffic post to help with, something or National Night Out. I can tell you, our explorers, we teach them everything that I do as a deputy. We have the detectives come in and talk. You can tell there's a little bit of a passion to teach the young kids. And I call them my kids because they're young enough to be my kids. But we enter them into competitions where they compete with other teams around the state. They get money for placing that gets give back to them for scholarships. Just a plug for our explorers. Our department doesn't give us any funding, zero, next to zero for us. And our kids are selling back the badge signs and back the brave signs. So if you guys want one, or know of somebody that wants one, you can hit up these guys and I can get the signs. In fact, sometime this afternoon, there's about 500 signs getting dropped off at my house. We sell them for $10. All the proceeds go directly to the unit. It helps pay for their dues that they're involved in, their uniforms, equipment, the competitions we go to, whether it's state, nationals, or just some locals. So. What was the last thing besides explorers?
Education.
Education. All right, we're good.
Motorcycle unit, we talked about that. Rec patrol, we talked about that. Metro drug unit, we talked about that. School resource officers, we touched on that. Oh, there's somebody.
Oh my gosh, that's illegal.
Dare, we talked about that. Honor guard, explorers.
There's Jesse.
Any of your people in here?
Jesse. There he is. I think he's the only one in here right now.
We talked about the shop with the sheriff, cop with a coffee with a cop, that kind of thing. Those are fundraisers. Like I said, it's kind of going downhill with the current situation, but this is probably something we should talk about because maybe you guys aren't all going into law enforcement, but you're kind of headed down that path some way, shape, or form. And it goes the same for whether you want to be a firefighter, whether you want to be a cop, whether you want to be a dispatcher, whether you want to have a career whatsoever, okay? The biggest thing is think about what you're doing right now, okay? And planning for your future to try to get you to where you want to be. If you're enrolled at WCTC taking CJ classes and have already decided that, hey, I want to be a cop, you can't be hanging out smoking dope. You can't be causing trouble. You can't be doing the things that we on the other side are trying to prevent from happening, right?
Meaning doing stupid things on social media, huge.
So I do all the backgrounds. Okay, if you come to try to be a deputy or a CO or a dispatcher for our department or Waukesha County, you're going to come through me at some way, shape, or form. All right, so I'm going to be looking at all this stuff, and I'm going to be looking for that reason for you not to be a police officer, for that reason for you not to be a dispatcher. That's my job. Okay, so if I look on your social media website and you're smoking dope or you're, drinking beer or you're doing all that stuff that we know everybody has either tried or been a part of at some way or at some time in their life, you just got to be a lot smarter about it, right? I'm not condoning the behavior, but I do understand that kids are kids. I do understand that college is college, right? And you still need to have some life experience. But you can't be putting it on social media. You can't be bragging about it. You can't be doing all that other stuff when it comes down to it. Because those are the things that separate you from the other person that's going for that same job. And it's all about honesty and integrity. Number one, all right? You're going to get the opportunity to tell me what you've all done on a piece of paper. Then you're going to get the opportunity to tell me what you've all done when I'm sitting across the table from you. And then you're going to get the opportunity to tell the polygraph examiner what you've all done. And if those 3 accounts are different, guess what? You're a liar, okay? And you're done. So when you have that opportunity, as bad as you may think it make you look, or as bad as it sounds, we've been there, we've seen it. We've got cops that have done it, but when they were asked about it, or when they were confronted about it, they owned it, okay? And they said, yeah, I did this, or yeah, I did that. But the guys and the girls that said, nope, wasn't me, and I can prove that it was you, guess what? They don't have jobs. And they have a real hard time getting a job. Because if you come through a background through me, and then you try to go to McGuanago, or you try to go to the city of Waukesha, who do you think is coming to talk to me? McGuanago, the city of Waukesha, right? Green Bay. They're going to come and talk to me, just like I'm going to go talk to them. And we're really good at sharing information, and we're really good at saying, hey, you know, this kid lied to me. He's not worth your time. So if you take anything out of this presentation, just think a little bit, right? When you're given the opportunity to be honest and prove your integrity, own the mistakes that you've made.
That's on your test.
I didn't even know there was a test. So, I mean, it is what it is, right? You can't take back what you've done, but you can damn well own it. Anything else you want to add on that, Kim?
With this slide, or just,
I think we're almost to the end here.
I would say, you know, being honest. The other thing that you guys need to do, and you guys are young, you guys are growing up in social media, Facebook, electronics, video games. Put that crap down and start talking to people. That is probably one of the biggest things. Jack, why are you looking at the guy behind you?
We were talking about it earlier.
All right, you know, and when you talk to people, don't sit here and talk to the floor. Talk to the person. Talk in their eyes. Talk to them. Talk with them. You know, to be sitting here texting, because when we go on calls, we're talking to people. We're asking questions. We're fact finders. That is what we do. You know, it's not sending a message, you know. Maybe a little COVID stuff kept us from talking to people, but it was still by the phone, asking questions, figuring it out. The other thing is, if you guys have the opportunity to do internships, again, I don't know where things are at these days, if they're even allowed and whatnot, or even ride-alongs. They're kind of by the wayside right now, but I'm sure they'll be back to doing it. You know, we just don't let every Tom, Dick, and Harry come ride in our squad cars. Okay, you got to have a purpose, you know. Sometimes it takes knowing somebody that can, hey, I'm interested, I'd like to do a ride along. That's why, quite honestly, I think our Explorer program, or any Explorer program, if you don't want to do the Sheriff's Department, would be something to get into, because we've had kids start with us and they're like, law enforcement isn't my gig, I'm going firefighter, or I'm going nursing, or I'm going to do something else. We're okay with that. That's where you really want to kind of figure it out, don't you think? You know? Take those steps. Ask those questions. I don't know. Are you looking to get into law enforcement?
Yes.
Why? I'm putting you on the
I
spot.
enjoy that.
Because
Yes.
okay. Jack, why are you looking to get into law enforcement?
I want to help people out.
Okay. Jesse?
Want to keep my community safe and protect people that I know.
Okay. All good answers, you know? And there's a lot of things out there for law enforcement, you know? And every day is different. Who wants to be, you know, if you want that sit behind the desk kind of job, law enforcement's not for you, you know? If you want that, something that is different every day, you know, that's for you. But you also got to be there to back your partners up. Patrol is different than the detective bureau, but as you heard, Detective Bustler, where did he start? Patrol. Where did the canine handler start? Patrol. So if you think you're looking to hop right into being a detective or being a canine or being something special, That's not how it goes, gang. You know, stay away from the TV shows. They're bad. They're horrible. So, what else?
Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I had a couple. So requirements for like the TAC unit and the hiring process for that, what's that look like?
For the hiring process in general, or just for the
overall,
TAC team?
Just overall.
So when you come apply for us, if you're a certified police officer, meaning you graduated the academy or are certifiable, the process is a little different. You're gonna show up, you're gonna do an interview, you're gonna do a PAT. After that, you're gonna get pushed on the background, or not.
PAT
So-
is physical agility test.
Yep. So the ones that come to background, come to me. I do all my stuff on my end. I'll bring you in for an interview. If you make it through that part, you go to the polygraph examiner. If you make it through the polygraph examiner, we go back to the administration, say, hey, this is this person, this is everything that they've done, this is all they have to offer. Administration makes the determination of whether or not you get a conditional offer of employment. If you're given a conditional offer of employment, you're going to be requested to take a medical exam and a psychological evaluation. Once you complete both of those successfully, then you'll get hired. You'll come on by us, you'll do 20 weeks field training program. Some may be a little shorter, some may be a little longer. If we can get you off of that field training program, then we're going to send you off to a shift. Then you're going to be on probation for, what is it, about a year? And then once you successfully complete probation, you're a full-time deputy. With the tactical side of things, obviously you have to be a deputy first, right? We do testing to include shooting, physical agility, interview, and then we select the best candidate after that. So it might be you and a handful of our guys. We also open it up to the other municipalities. Menominee Falls has a bunch of officers that are on our tactical team. We used to have a City of Oconomowoc guy. Pewaukee, before Pewaukee came with us. So then they just pick the best person for the job, and then you start on the tactical side of things.
They usually require a minimum law enforcement experience. Is it
You know,
3
I don't
years
know what our
sometimes?
minimum is. I mean,
I
I
think-
want to say 2 years.
2 or 3. I know some of our specialty units, you need to have a couple years on, but also you need to make that commitment. Some of the units require a 3-year commitment, a 5-year commitment. It all depends. So you got to keep that in mind when you're applying and looking to go different places.
If you're coming on the non-cert side of things, like you want us to put you through the academy, everything is the same, but you're also going to do the state PAT entrance stuff.
Are you guys familiar with that? Actually did a little research. It's way different than when I went through. They have an entrance standard and an exit standard. Honestly, it's something for you guys to look at now. Because if you're looking to get into the academy, think about it. You're all set, department hired you, you're going to do the entrance, and you don't meet the entrance standards of, what, 1.5 miles in 20 minutes, 20 seconds? No, I'm not. I'm Kim. Exit standards for a 1.5 mile run is 16 minutes, 57 seconds. So think about this, guys. This is when you should be thinking about this, doing your research, you know? The other thing is, do your research on the municipalities. Once you guys get your degrees, if you get certified or you're looking to get certified, look at where you want to apply. You know, see how many officers are on the department. See what else they have involved. What is their population? You know, what goes on? What's their square mile? You know, Elm Grove, I think, is maybe 2 square miles. You know, I couldn't do it. But the county is 570 some square miles. Huge. You know, I had the opportunity to work the Southwest one day. I don't get out there often. But I literally went to the Southwest county line, and I was like, holy crap. I live in Sussex. that is like a forever drive. Would you not agree? Totally. And you're in Booney Land. I think elk and llamas and I don't know what else is out there. So not a whole lot of humanoids, I can tell you that.
No matter where you go, you're gonna get that question. Why do you wanna work in Waukesha County? Why do you wanna work in Elm Grove? Why do you wanna work in Brookfield? And if you can't regurgitate some sort of fact or some reason why you like their community, it just says that, well, this guy really didn't put any effort into finding out about us. So why should we let them come here? Or why do we want them to work for us?
Remember guys, the whole point of an interview process for you is to make yourself stand out so you're memorable after they're done interviewing however many people for a job.
Dress appropriately, be enthusiastic, shake the investigator's hand or shake the people's hands, look them in the eyes.
Brad, what is dressing appropriately?
Suit, tie, for females. Slacks.
Blazer, dress shirt. Don't show up in shorts. Don't come. You laugh. It's amazing what some people probably kind of show up and walk in and stuff, Tuck your shirt in, wear your belts, Honestly, think about those things.
The reason we're saying it is because we've seen it. You put 5 people in the line and you got the guy wearing a tank top and shorts next to 4 suits. Who's gonna move on right from the first glimpse? The 4 guys in suits.
And they're not going to
4
ask you
girls.
where you bought it from, okay? That's not the ticket, okay?
Just make sure you take the tags off.
Unless you want to return it.
Unless you want to return it after.
But at least wear it to the interview.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yep, go ahead.
What was, like, your side of things when the courthouse bomb threat happened?
Oh, the one that just happened in January?
Yeah.
It was my first day back in courts from being on patrol for the year. I'll tell you, I was in a family court, and all of a sudden, we all have earbuds in our ears so nobody can hear the conversation, and it was basically, bailiffs, you need to shut your court down and clear the courthouse. We have a bomb threat. And it's like, As your court's going, you get your message to the judge. He cordially says, hey, you need to pack up your stuff. We have a bomb threat going on. You need to exit the building, leave. Fully knowing the criminal courts and family courts have bailiffs, but the civil courts don't have bailiffs in the room. So again, my first day back, I'm like, I know there's a court across me. I don't think they have a bailiff. So I go trotting over, close my courtroom, and then we as bailiffs, we had to go through the entire courthouse. And it's not just the courtrooms, it's the conference rooms. It's all the employees, as well as the administration center, you know. And that, honestly, that came to fruition of who it was and whatnot really fast. Were you working that day too?
Yeah, so on our end, we had, limited description that we were working on, trying to figure out, license plates, video. And then detectives were assigned to do certain files. Like, it looks like this type of vehicle. I need you to do an open search on all vehicles in Waukesha County and see if you can start putting something together. Somebody else was assigned to look at, the court roster for the day and see like, hey, was somebody supposed to be coming here for like a sensitive case or a high profile case and got a little cold feet, which is essentially what ended up happening. So we were kind of set, in all different directions, just trying to find that one, link that put us in motion as to where we needed to go. Video surveillance from the surrounding area, the phone call, trying to trace phone calls. So patrol is helping out closing down roads, court's helping out getting people out. So it was kind of like all hands on deck. And really we had it pretty much solved in a short amount of time.
Yeah, amazing, yeah. And fully knowing there's video cameras everywhere, folks. If you think there's not, there is. And that was one of our biggest helpful things for us because the knuckleheads showed up on campus, so.
Any other questions? Yep, go ahead.
And psychological exam, what do you look for that are like red flags?
So I don't I don't like grade it or review it. There's actually a psychologist that does that, but we employ a psychologist to do that for us. So your psych eval is going to be like 500 some questions. They're going to ask you the same question 37 different ways to figure out if your response changes, right? And then based on those responses, the psychologist is able to say, okay, well, this person tends to lean towards this type of behavior or this type of personality, okay? So he kind of gets an idea of who you are based on these answers, and then he brings you in for an interview, and then they talk about those things. And he tries to quantify the responses that you gave to what he's actually witnessing in person. And ultimately, when it's all said and done, he'll either recommend you for employment or recommend you not to move on in the process. Anything else?
How often do people actually like fail those?
All the time.
Really?
If I get 20 applicants to fill in their application, 10 of those are going to pass the interview, okay? Of those 10 that come to me, 5 of them are going to make it through the background. Of those 5 that get done with the background, half of those are going to get washed out in a polygraph or a psych. So now we're down to 1 person, and we started with 20. So.
I'm involved with the hiring at WCC, and getting Brad's background back is my favorite part. He's really good at finding some fun stories along the way.
But part of it is at the front end, the application. Fill it out correctly. You know, if you miss half the stuff on the application, are they done?
Yeah, they don't even get to
You might want somebody to look it over, you know? You might be missing some stuff or, you know, take the time, you know?
Yeah, I think our last non-cert list, which is just closed, was over 300 some applicants. And out of that, we got 88 to move on to an interview. So if you don't fill the stuff out properly to begin with, you don't submit the resume that it asked, or you don't submit the transcript that it asked, or you didn't follow the instructions somehow, you don't even get a shot to go to an interview, right? And that's on you. Nobody else can do that for you. Nobody else can fill it out there for you. So just take your time, read it, follow the instructions. Because you may be better qualified than the person next to you, but they did their application correctly, and they submitted the proper documents that were asked in the proper time that was allowed. So all those things matter.
Got time for maybe one more question if there is one?
Yep, go ahead.
How long is the application?
The initial application that you're gonna fill out on NeoGov, which is the online application, probably take you 20 minutes. Okay, once you go through that, you get referred to the interview. Once you get to me, it's called a PHS, or a personal history statement. So that's kind of like your big one. That's about 30 pages. And I give you 7 days to do that. So if you apply for other jobs along the way, keep copies of your stuff, right? So you're not recreating the wheel every time you do it. You might have to apply for 5, 10, 15 places before you get an interview, right? Before you get a second interview. But all that stuff you're doing is helping you to get that job that you want. You know, you've done it before, you've interviewed before. You've made copies of your transcripts, you've made your resume. You know, keep copies of that. Keep that in a file, right? So when that 7-day comes, and this is the job that you really want, you're like, yep, got it. Boom, boom, boom. And the first guy that gets it back to me, or girl, guess what I'm doing? I'm looking at that first, right? Because I just take them as they come in. So be prepared.
How long from start to finish, from like initial application through conditional offer? How long does the process take usually?
I would say probably 2.5 months. It can be longer, like say we've got 3 openings, right? and I backgrounded 5 people that passed. I might have filled those 3 spots, but I got 2 more hanging out there, right? That passed background, you know, but we just don't have a spot for you. So on your end, you're like, what's going on? You know, but on our end, we might be putting you on the back burner, or we might be hanging on to you for a little bit to see if we get another spot to open up. Cool.
Hey, if anyone's interested in our Explorer unit, I did bring some pamphlets with if you wanted to read up on it. Otherwise, talk to a couple of your classmates. They can let you know how it is, how you can get in touch and fill out the paperwork to get involved. So thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.